The watcher next door. I don't even know how to start this. It still doesn't feel real. I moved into this neighborhood a little over a year ago. Just a quiet small suburb. Nothing fancy, just normal. I wanted that. After a messy breakup and a bad experience living in the city, I just wanted to be somewhere peaceful, somewhere safe. The house was perfect, a little old but cozy. The kind of place where you imagine baking cookies on a Sunday, you know. The only weird thing was my neighbor, Henry. Older guy, maybe in his 60s, lived alone, didn't talk much, just kind of watched. Not in a creepy way, at least not at first. He'd just be outside sitting on his porch staring. I figured maybe he was just lonely. But then weird things started happening. The first time I brushed it off. I came home from work one day and my front door was unlocked. I was sure I had locked it that morning, but I thought maybe I was just in a hurry and forgot. No big deal, right? But then it kept happening. Little things. My door slightly open. A window unlocked when I swore I locked it. My cat, who normally followed me everywhere, started refusing to go into certain rooms. He'd just sit at the doorway staring, his tail puffed up, like he saw something that I didn't see. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then I started waking up feeling off, like I wasn't alone, like someone had been there watching. I don't know how to explain it, but I started sleeping with my bedroom door locked, trying to find comfort. I had this weird feeling all day like something wasn't right. So the next day I had a camera installed in my living room, pointing toward my bedroom door, just to ease my mind. The next morning my blood ran cold. The footage showed my front door opening, slowly, silently, just after 2 a.m. And there, standing in the darkness of my hallway, was Henry. He didn't move, didn't say anything. He just stood there, watching my bedroom door, for nearly an hour, just standing there, breathing, waiting. And then just as quietly he turned and walked out. I felt sick. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely call the police. They came fast, faster than I expected. When I told them about the unlocked doors, my cat, the footage, they took it seriously. One of the officers asked if I had checked my basement. I hadn't. I never went down there much. Just storage. But when the police went down, they found something I'll never be able to forget. A crawl space. A tiny, hidden opening I had never noticed before. And inside, dozens of Polaroids of me, sleeping, walking around my house, showering, and a notebook. Pages and pages of notes about me, what time I left for work, what I ate, when I slept, even things I never said out loud like my childhood memories, my favorite songs, things no one should know. Henry had been watching me, living under my house, slipping in at night, standing in my home while I slept, for months. He was arrested, but I still don't sleep right. I moved away, but every time I wake up, I have to check my doors, my windows, my closets, because now I know. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they aren't there. Watching, waiting. Check your locks tonight. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for spine-chilling horror content. Please share with family and friends. I never really talked to my neighbor, Mr. Curtis. He was one of those guys who always seemed off. You know the type. He didn't do anything outright creepy, but something about him just made my skin crawl. Whenever we passed each other in the hall, his eyes lingered just a second. Too long, and he had this weird, stretched out smile, like he was trying too hard to seem normal. I live in a small apartment complex, thin walls, nothing fancy. So when I first heard the tapping, I figured it was just old pipes or something. It was soft, random. Just a little tap, tap, tap from the wall behind my bed. It kept happening. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. Always the same irregular, deliberate taps. It was like someone was testing to see if I was awake. After a few nights, I started getting paranoid. I even stayed up just to see if it would happen again. And it did. Same time, same weird tapping. One night, out of frustration, I knocked back. Several knocks. Then there was silence. Then, after a few seconds, I heard it. Several knocks right back at me. I didn't sleep that night. I kept telling myself it was just the building settling or some stupid coincidence. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I started paying closer attention to Curtis. He never had visitors. He barely left his apartment. I'd hear him moving around at odd hours, pacing, mumbling. And that smile, whenever I saw him, it felt like he knew something I didn't. By the next week, I was exhausted. The tapping wouldn't stop. Every night, just past 2 a.m., it was like a sick game. I don't know what made me do it, but one night, I grabbed my drill and made a tiny hole in the wall, just big enough to peek through. I put my flashlight up to the hole and leaned in close, and there it was. An eye, wide, bloodshot, staring right back at me. I stumbled back so fast I nearly fell. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I grabbed my phone and called the police, trying not to completely lose it. When they showed up, they knocked on Curtis's door. No answer. They had to break it down. And what they found still keeps me up at night. The walls? They weren't just normal walls. He had drilled dozens of tiny holes, hidden ones, watching me for weeks. He had notebooks filled with disturbing drawings of me. Pages of notes, what time I came home, what time I slept, what I ate. And then the worst part, a detailed plan. A step-by-step guide on how and when he was going to break into my apartment. And make me stay forever. I moved out the next day. I still get sick thinking about how long he was watching me. How close I was to something much worse. And I still don't sleep near walls. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for spine-chilling horror content. Please share with family and friends. You ever think about your quiet neighbors? The ones who never cause trouble, who just keep to themselves? What if I told you that the quietest ones are sometimes the ones you should fear the most? I remember the day the truth about Mr. Grady came out. It still makes my stomach turn. The Thompsons, our neighbors, had always said he was just a harmless old man. A little odd, sure. Spent all his time in his backyard, messing with his garden. But nobody ever thought much of it. I mean, we all got weird neighbors, right? Then their dog got into Mr. Grady's backyard digging, dug up something that should have never been there. At first they thought it was a tree root all twisted and white. But when Mrs. Thompson bent down and brushed off the dirt, her face went pale. It was a skull, a human skull. The police came fast, real fast. The whole street was watching as they dug through Grady's backyard, tearing up the flower beds he spent so much time tending to. And what they found, it was worse than anyone could have imagined. 6 bodies, 6 skeletons. The air felt thick, heavy like the whole neighborhood was suffocating. People whispered. We counted the missing posters we'd seen over the years. People who vanished without a trace. And we realized some of those posters were for people who lived right here, on our street. Grady never raised suspicion, never lost his temper, never seemed angry. Just an old man with dirt under his nails and a quiet smile. But for 20 years he had been killing people, not just strangers, neighbors, drifters. Anyone who happened to cross his path at the wrong time. And he buried them right there, under our feet. I stood outside my house that night, staring at his dark, empty yard, wondering how many nights I'd slept just yards away from a man with bodies beneath his flowers, wondering if he ever thought about making me one of them. Grady never spoke a word when they arrested him, just stared at the ground. No regret, no fear, just empty. They say monsters don't look like monsters. They don't hide in the shadows. Sometimes they smile at you from across the fence. Sometimes they wave at you when you grab your mail. And sometimes you don't realize you were living next to one until it's far too late. Have you ever had a neighbor that gave you the chills? Tell us in the comments if you dare. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for spine-chilling horror content. Please share with family and friends.